Discover the miraculous power of faith. 1 hour of divine motivation for transforming your life. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the land of Canaan was gripped by a terrible famine that spread like a plague across the parched earth. Jacob, a venerable patriarch, looked out upon the desolate fields, where once his sons had tended flocks and harvested bountiful grains under the warm embrace of the sun. Now the soil lay barren and cracked under the merciless sun, a reflection of his spirit, heavy with worry for his family. Each day that passed only heightened the gnawing hunger within their bellies, a reminder of desperation lurking within the walls of their home. He turned to his sons, each with strong arms but burdened hearts, filled with guilt and fear over their past actions. "Why do you sit idle? Go to Egypt and buy us grain, so that we may live and not die," he commanded, his voice trembling under the weight of their dire reality. His heart soared with the hope that perhaps beyond the looming horizon they would find salvation. Unbeknownst to Jacob, his beloved son Joseph, thought long dead, had risen to an exalted position in Egypt next to Pharaoh himself. Through trials that had once threatened to sever his spirit, Joseph had borne the weight of servitude and injustice. Yet, in those dark valleys, he had been mindful of the dreams the Lord had imparted upon him, leading him to a purpose far grander than himself. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons embarked on their journey toward Egypt, their hearts torn between hope and trepidation, blissfully unaware of the divine threads of fate intertwining their lives. Upon their arrival in Egypt, they stood before the governor, whose words echoed with authority. "Where do you come from?" he demanded, the wisdom in his gaze striking terror within their hearts. They stammered their reply, "From the land of Canaan, to buy food." Joseph, witnessing their fear and desperation, felt the flood of memories wash over him, memories tainted by past betrayal. Concealing his identity, Joseph tested their resolve, accusing them of being spies. "You have come to see the weakness of the land." His words hung in the air, filled with unyielding certainty. The brothers, their minds racing with guilt, pleaded, "We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies." They shared their family's plight, their fragile reality echoing deeply within Joseph's heart. "We are 12 brothers. One is no more, and the youngest is with our father." As the drama unfolded, Joseph fought a fierce inner battle, watching the anguish his tests wrought upon them. Each encounter stoked the fires of both judgment and forgiveness within his spirit, compelling him to evaluate the integrity of these men who had once betrayed him. Would they recognize their misdeeds, or would the weight of fear silence their cries for redemption? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now, let's continue with what the Lord did next. Joseph longed for reconciliation, but grappled with the pain of past wounds. Days passed, each moment heavy with unsaid truths, waiting like a delicate balance upon the brink of revelation. As he sent his brothers back to Canaan with a mere portion of grain and a divine mandate to return with their youngest brother, Benjamin, fear enveloped them like a thick fog. Would they confront their past sins, or would they retreat once more into the shadows of betrayal? Jacob's heart ached at the thought of losing another son, his reluctance heavy upon his soul. "You would take Benjamin from me? No, my son shall not go down with you." The stakes heightened, fate intertwining lives over unresolved yearning, as Joseph awaited their return with bated breath, wishing to witness if the test of faith would lead to their redemption or another cycle of despair. The question lingered, how would God's plan unfold amidst the intricate tapestry of their stories? The days turned into weeks as Jacob's household continued to grapple with the haunting threat of famine. Their provisions, once a bounty, dwindled to mere remnants of what they had saved. As hunger gnawed at their resilience, the memory of Joseph's brother's journey weighed heavily upon Jacob's heart. The prospect of sending Benjamin to Egypt loomed before him like a dark storm cloud. At last, the grain was consumed. The temptation of despair whispered to Jacob, "What shall we do now?" He could feel the tension in his own heart mirrored in the eyes of his sons. It was Judah who broke the silence, casting a glance towards his father. "The man solemnly warned us, saying, 'You will not see my face unless your youngest brother is with you.'" Jacob sighed deeply, a sigh that bore the weight of years lost and grief unaddressed. "Why did you tell him you had another brother?" he lamented. The brothers exchanged guilty glances, the memories of their treachery against Joseph echoing in their minds. But it was Reuben who spoke up, desperation edging his voice. "I will be surety for him. Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever." Upon hearing this, Jacob's heart stirred, for he sensed the depths of their collective despair and courage. Though reluctant, he knew the survival of their family rested upon this moment.
"If it must be so, go," he relented. "Take this present, some of the finest fruits of the land, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds. But take heed, may God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send back your other brother, Benjamin." With that, the brothers, now resolute, set forth on the precarious journey back to Egypt. The echoes of their father's words lingered in their hearts, an unspoken prayer for favor and mercy wrapped around them like a cloak. As they approached the great city, a blend of shame and trepidation cloaked their spirits, yet mingled with a flicker of hope ignited by necessity. Upon entering the royal court, their eyes met Joseph's, the man they had wronged yet did not recognize. Clutching the gifts, they prostrated themselves before him, a scene reminiscent of the very dreams Joseph had once shared. "We are your servants, here to buy food," they declared in trembling tones. Joseph's heart swelled at the sight of his brothers, yet the weight of recognition bore down as he saw Benjamin beside them. "Is this your younger brother?" he inquired, his voice steady, but the tempest of emotions roiling within. As they nodded, an ache of longing pierced his soul, memories of love and betrayal flooding his heart. "God be gracious unto you, my son," he whispered under his breath, his heart torn between forgiveness and the knowledge of their past. He turned away, wrestling with overwhelming love and bitterness. Yet, through the veil of pain, he felt an inkling of the divine purpose unfolding before him, a mission larger than he could fathom. Were these men yet capable of repentance and hope? As he prepared to feast with them, he could sense the tension stretching taut like a bowstring. Would this moment lead to healing, or to greater anguish? The seat of Joseph beside Benjamin was struck by the spirit of providence, setting the stage for a divine encounter that would echo through generations. What revelations awaited them, and how would God's sovereign plan weave the lives of these brothers once more? The narrative surged with the promise of restoration, and the tapestry of their lives began to unfold, revealing a destiny only God could orchestrate. As the sun dipped low over the horizon, casting golden hues across the Egyptian landscape, Joseph prepared the lavish feast for his brothers. He ordered the finest wines and delicacies, setting a table of honor for the weary travelers. His heart swirled in a tempest as he donned the robes of his office, a facade of authority masking the storm of emotions within. The brothers, bewildered and filled with apprehension, were ushered into Joseph's presence. Awash in their own guilt, they exchanged glances, recalling the bitterness of their past deeds. They had torn their father's heart and sold their brother into slavery, and now they stood before the very one from whom they sought mercy.
As they settled into their seats, each brother felt the grip of fear tightening, yet curiously, hope flickered like a candle in the dark of their hearts. They could scarcely comprehend the depth of Joseph's providence or the design of the Almighty that had led them to this moment. And as they partook of the food laid before them, Joseph keenly observed them, searching their eyes for signs of contrition. After they had eaten, and the spirit of fellowship began to ease the tension, Joseph lifted his goblet, addressing them with words that resonated in the hall like thunder. "Your father, is he yet alive? Is there peace in your father's house?" His voice rang with purpose, seeking to unearth their fears and desires. With hearts pounding, they replied, "Thy servant our father is in good health. He is yet alive." The words poured forth, an echo of yearning mingled with relief, retreating from the shadows of their hearts where guilt resided. Yet beneath the surface, Joseph felt a stirring of emotions, a deep longing to reconnect, but an awareness of the trepidation and distrust that lingered. In a moment of hushed tension, Joseph's voice softened as he gazed at Benjamin. "God be gracious to you, my son." The familiar face stirred memories long buried, igniting the embers of love like a flame. Yet he could not forget the pain of betrayal. It remained woven tightly in the fabric of their shared past. He withdrew into another chamber to hide his tears, the weight of forgiveness warring with the bitterness of betrayal. In prayer and contemplation, he sought the will of God and the path forward, grappling with the divine mission unfolding before him. After an agonizing moment, Joseph re-entered the hall, his demeanor transformed. His countenance bore the imprint of divine resolve. He framed a challenge to his brothers, an opportunity for redemption, a test of their true hearts. "As you depart, take your grain, but leave one of you with me until your youngest brother comes as a sign of your sincerity," he declared, voice firm yet yearning. Panic erupted in the brothers' hearts. They knew not what judgment might fall upon them. "Why are you treating us this way? We are innocent men," they protested, fear clawing at their throats. Their memories of past treachery stirred like ghosts, fierce reminders of their sins. But Joseph remained resolute, observing their responses. Was this the moment of transformation? As they departed, remembering the whispered laments of their father and the weight of Benjamin's safety, the brothers faced the cold truth. The journey back to their father would demand a leap of faith, a relinquishing of old accusations, and the embrace of newfound unity. As night cloaked the land, they looked skyward, lost in prayer, sensing the presence of God woven through their challenging journey. Yet little did they know, even in their trials, the orchestrations of heaven were aligning for a greater purpose.
Could it be that through their suffering, their lives would intersect with a tapestry that was intricately crafted by God's own hand? What greater deliverance awaited them as they returned to Jacob? The horizon held secrets of divine grace, beckoning for faithful hearts to believe. A revelation loomed on the horizon, poised to unveil the profound mysteries of God's sovereign plan. As dawn broke over the land of Canaan, the heavy hearts of Joseph's brothers journeyed onward, burdened with uncertainty and the weight of their past. As they approached home, each mile drawn closer felt heavy with unspoken fears and transgressions they had attempted to bury deep within their souls. The memory of their father's grief hung around them like a shadow, echoing the words of Joseph's challenge, "Bring your youngest brother." Upon returning to their father Jacob, a palpable tension filled the air. The brothers gathered, their voices trembling as they recounted the events of their harrowing journey. "In Egypt, the man who is lord over the land spoke harshly and questioned our integrity," Reuben began, the regret etched across his face. "He accused us of being spies, and we were pressed to leave Simeon behind as a pledge until we may return with Benjamin." Jacob's eyes widened in anguish upon hearing the news. "You have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more. Simeon is taken, and now you desire to take Benjamin?" His voice broke, revealing the depths of a heart grieved. It was a father's cry, born from the anguish of years of loss. "Why would you bring this burden upon me?" The brothers stood in silence, their spirits crushed, for they knew the truth of their actions had already severed their father's joy. Judah took the weight of their family's welfare upon him, with fervent desperation in his tone. "I will be surety for him. If I do not bring him back to you, let me bear the blame forever. Send the lad with me, and we shall go down to Egypt." Yet Jacob hesitated, wrestling with the fears that paralyzed him. In his heart he recalled the promises of old, the blessings bestowed upon Abraham and Isaac. But the pain of potential loss drowned the flickers of faith. If it must be so, he finally relented. "Take from my hand the best fruits of the land, and carry them as a gift to the man.
Perhaps he will show mercy upon you and return your brother." Thus, laden with gifts and the grain necessary for their survival, the brothers journeyed once more towards Egypt, their hearts heavy yet resolute. As they approached the city, they were enveloped by an air of trepidation. The brothers acutely felt the disparity between their prior arrogance and the humility they now bore. They stood at the threshold of redemption, uncertain if the past still held sway over their present. Upon entering Joseph's house, emotions churned violently within them. He entered with grandeur that made their hearts quicken.
Yet, instead of wrath, there was something different in his demeanor, compassion layered over the firmness of authority. "You come back," he stated, his voice steady, "and you have brought your younger brother." At the sight of Benjamin, Joseph's heart swelled and a fierce love surged through him. Yet he maintained his composure, veiling his longing behind the mask of an Egyptian governor. "God be gracious unto you," he proclaimed, and prepared a banquet, a feast to embrace the weary-hearted. As they shared the meal, Joseph perceived the transformation in his brothers. The shame that once ignited their hearts now mirrored in their sincere actions. Would they repeat their past sins, or was there a glimmer of change lighting their past darkness? The weight of their decisions teetered heavily in the air. When the table was cleared and their hearts laid bare, Joseph, driven by the Spirit, revealed a mystery yet entwined with God's purpose. "I shall test you once more." With each word, the gravity of Joseph's intentions became clearer. The time had come to unveil the truth that lay hidden beneath layers of grief and guilt. For could it be that what was meant for evil, God intended for good? Spirits ignited with anticipation for what lay ahead, but uncertainty still loomed. Would they embrace the chance for reconciliation, or flee once more from the shadow of their past? The very fabric of their redemption hung in the balance, the pages of their story still unwritten, yearning for the divine promise awaiting fulfillment in the tapestry of God's mighty plan. As the sun began to set over the ancient streets of Egypt, darkness cloaked the land, yet in Joseph's heart the light of God's purpose shone through. In the dimly lit banquet hall, the brothers sat in a knot of anxious anticipation, their thoughts a tumultuous sea. They had feasted in the presence of their brother, but the weight of scrutiny lay heavy upon them. Joseph could see the tremors of fear in their eyes, the guilt that clung to them like a second skin. They were men transformed, now aware of their past sins, yet still he felt a deep yearning for reconciliation. He spoke, his words laden with an authority that masked a brother's longing. "I shall fill your sacks with provisions, yet I will place my silver cup in the sack of the youngest. When you depart, I will send my servant after you." With this plan set in motion, Joseph ordered his steward to act swiftly, and the brothers departed, hearts fluttering with relief, yet burdened by Joseph's earlier words. Unbeknownst to them, the true test lay ahead. As they journeyed forth, they were met but a short distance from the city by Joseph's steward. With a voice raised in urgency, he proclaimed, "Wherefore have you rewarded evil for good?" The brothers, startled and confused, vehemently denied any wrongdoing, proclaiming their innocence. "What can we say? We are your servants. If among us is found the cup, we shall be slaves to our Lord."
Amidst the clamor, they hastily opened their sacks, one by one, until Benjamin's remained. As the steward dug deep into the very fabric that housed their provisions, a gasp echoed through the night. The silver cup lay nestled among the grain, glimmering with a promise of betrayal and despair. "Oh God!" they cried in unison, their hearts sinking heavier than lead. It was a test from Joseph, a shadow reflecting their past actions, demanding confrontation. They returned to the city, trembling in fear, not merely for the loss of Benjamin, but for the confrontation of their own hearts. Upon entering the house of Joseph, a deep silence enveloped the space, suffocating as if the air itself awaited judgment. They fell before Joseph in disarray, their voices a chorus of pleading. "We are all your servants. Let our brother go, for our father's heart is as a tender leaf withered in the drought." Joseph, his heart torn between wrath and compassion, concealed his emotion. "How can I do this?" he asked, his voice steady yet soft. "The man with whom the cup was found shall be my servant, while you return to your father." Judah stepped forward, his countenance overcome with sorrow and determination. "My lord," he implored, "let me instead take the boy's place. Let me become a slave, and may he return home, for I cannot bear to see the despair that would befall our father." In that moment, Joseph's heart stirred. The transformation within his brothers was real. They were not the callous men who had once cast him into the pit. Their voices resonated with grief, an echo of regret and love. A storm of emotions gripped Joseph, and he could contain himself no longer. With tears welling up, he revealed his true identity to them. "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt." The air became still, and time seemed suspended as they absorbed the monumental reality that stood before them. "What you intended for evil, God has turned into good," he continued, his voice laden with grace. "He sent me before you to preserve your lives." As disbelief turned to awe and bewilderment, the brothers embraced, weeping over their past, yet hopeful for what lay ahead. God's sovereign hand had orchestrated every moment for his plan to unfold. And through this revelation, God's mysterious purpose loomed larger than they could ever comprehend. Mercy was their path forward, and from this profound moment of revelation, the lineage of a great nation would emerge from their redemption. Thus the unfolding of God's divine plan loomed ever closer as love, forgiveness, and faith intertwined. For in the heart of their family, a promise awaited fulfillment, a promise that spoke of restoration beyond their wild imaginations, all intricately woven into the tapestry of divine purpose. In the wake of Joseph's revelation, silence lingered in the chamber, heavy with unspoken words.
The brothers, overwhelmed by the truth and fear, dared not move, their minds reeling from the gravity of all that had unfolded. Yet amidst their astonishment, Joseph, with a voice both firm and gentle, edged closer to his brothers, the emotion palpable in the air. "Do not be afraid," he implored, "for although you intended to harm me, God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." His words were a balm, heavy with the weight of divine purpose, and clarity began to dawn upon the brothers' clouded hearts. Joseph continued, "Go to my father and say to him, 'Joseph, your son, is still alive. He is ruler of all Egypt. Bring him here, for my plan encompasses not only you, but all who dwell in this land.'" The brothers, emboldened by the hope that radiated from Joseph, responded with fervor. Unified in their mission, they marveled at the chance for redemption, not only for themselves, but for their father, Jacob. So they set forth from Egypt, laden with provisions and the good news that would bring their father from the darkness of despair into the light of reunion. The journey home was marked with a sense of purpose, laughter bursting forth amidst the solemnity of their past. Yet the specter of their previous sins lingered like shadows, challenging their newfound hope. Arriving in Canaan, they faced their father, whose heart had been grieved for years. With trembling voices, they uttered the words Joseph had instructed. "Joseph is alive," as they witnessed the flicker of incredulity ignite in Jacob's eyes. The air became electric with anticipation, as Jacob, ancient and weary, could scarcely believe what he heard. In time, the truth sunk into Jacob's heart like a seed, giving way to the blossoming of disbelief into joy. "It is enough. My son is alive," he cried, tears flowing freely, and the embrace of hope enveloped him like a comforting shroud. Thus, in that moment, the fractured family began to mend, unseen ties weaving them closer together, the scars of the past now overshadowed by the light of new beginnings. And so it came to pass that the household of Jacob journeyed into Egypt, where Joseph awaited them with open arms. The storied land of Pharaoh soon became a refuge for the once estranged family, and there they settled, nurturing each other amidst the abundance of the land. God had orchestrated their reunion, mingling sorrow with joy, to weave a new narrative of life. As the years flowed by, the seeds of Joseph's leadership bore fruit. He governed with wisdom, providing sustenance not only for his family, but for all of Egypt, ensuring that they did not perish in the midst of famine. Each act of grace resonated with the burgeoning legacy that God was carving through his people.
and Joseph's heart swelled with gratitude for the road that brought him to such a moment. Yet, while all seemed well, a whisper in the promise of God lingered as a spectral reminder.
"I will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here," Joseph had declared, instilling a hope that surged through generations. The hearts of his brothers yearned for understanding of what lay ahead, the unfolding plan of God, a tapestry woven through trials and triumphs, still awaited its completion. In the embrace of this covenantal promise and the miracle of restoration, the path before them shimmered with divine expectancy. What further wonders would God unleash through the warmth of forgiveness? The answer lay hidden in the hearts of the faithful, awaiting the dawn of a new chapter in their sacred journey. As the seasons turned in the land of Egypt, the household of Jacob thrived under the nurturing hand of Joseph. The townspeople spoke of the wisdom of the Hebrew governor, whose visions had saved them from ruin. But within the hearts of Joseph's brothers, the past still cast a long shadow, prompting musings of reconciliation with their own souls. One evening, as the stars glimmered like scattered diamonds upon the velvet sky, Joseph called his brothers to assemble. He looked deeply into their eyes, searching for those who had once conspired against him. "God has been faithful," he began, his voice resonating with both warmth and authority. "But the journey of our family is not yet complete. There is a promise yet to be realized, one that stretches far beyond this land." His brothers listened intently, their faces etched with both hope and trepidation. They thought of their father Jacob, whose heart still bore the scars of loss. Joseph, seeing the flicker of fear, continued, "I have been sent to prepare a place for you in the land of promise. Your return is not just for reunion. It is to fulfill the covenant God made with Abraham, Isaac, and our father Jacob." Tremors of understanding began to rise within the brothers. They were not merely living in the aftermath of their past mistakes, but part of a divine narrative spanning generations. Yet Joseph peered into the depths of his brothers' hearts, sensing their unspoken burdens. "Fear not," he reassured them again, "for what may seem like our darkest hour has been ordained for the unfolding of joyous deliverance." But uncertainty still lingered. Judah, ever the outspoken, stepped forward. "What if we fail? What if our father will not believe us again? What if he revisits the pain of your loss?" The weight of Judah's words echoed in the chamber, reverberating off the walls that had witnessed both betrayal and unity. In that moment, Joseph spoke with conviction. "God has a purpose in all things, and the echoes of our past will turn into a song of redemption. We must go to our Father and let him know that we are not just returning empty-handed. We bring with us a message of hope, reconciliation, and the promise of generations yet unborn." Moved by the spirit of Joseph's words, his brothers rallied. Remembering the oaths they had made, they departed to Canaan once more, their hearts ignited by the fire of divine promise. As they journeyed, the words of Joseph rang in their ears, "You shall carry up my bones from here." For they knew this was about more than their own lives. This was about the future of their people. Meanwhile, in Canaan, Jacob's heart remained intertwined with the memory of loss. The brothers approached cautiously, presenting their hearts laid bare before him. "Father, Joseph lives, and he rules Egypt. He has provided for us abundantly and invites us to dwell there." Jacob's eyes widened, disbelief mingling with glimmers of hope. His thoughts raced back through the years, from labor in the fields to mourning by the grave. And with each word, the fabric of his sorrow began to unravel, as belief began to knit a new tapestry of life. "Is it true?" he questioned, almost frantically. "Can my son really be alive?" In those moments of fragile hope, the heart of Jacob began to thaw, the bitterness of loss yielding to the sweetness of reunion. With trembling hands his sons embraced him, the love like a balm upon old wounds. Yet as God continued to weave his tapestry, Joseph remained steadfast in his conviction that this was merely the beginning, for he knew, deep in his spirit, that this family journey was leading to greater revelations, visions yet unveiled. Thus, upon the horizon of their destiny loomed the promise of divine deliverance, beckoning them to step forward. The words of Joseph echoed in their hearts, as echoes of eternity whispered, "What more shall God do through the threads of our lives?" The time of fulfillment is approaching, and we are called to remember, for the days ahead shall unveil a future beyond our imagining. As the dawn broke over the land of Canaan, casting golden rays upon the weary fields, Jacob gathered his sons,
their countenances shining with renewed hope. "Come," he beckoned, "let us prepare to return to Egypt, to see my beloved Joseph." The air shimmered with expectation, for the family had been drawn together by the invisible hand of God, laying the groundwork for a reunion that was both physical and spiritual. Once again, the brothers ventured back toward the land of their brother's rule, their hearts quickened by a promise that transcended time. Each step they took was filled with memories, long buried but newly revived, flickering like candle flames against the dark corners of their souls. And as they marched, they spoke of their father's heart, of the restoration God was weaving through their lives, illuminating the chaos with purposes yet revealed. Upon their arrival, Joseph was informed of their coming. His heart leapt, and he prepared himself to meet them, knowing that this was a moment orchestrated by the divine. In a grand hall adorned with Egyptian artistry, Joseph stood waiting, his robes reflecting both his status and the journey of his heart, now a vessel of forgiveness and love.
When at last they stood before him, their eyes met, brother to brother, wound to wound. Joseph's heart swelled, not with anger or resentment, but with the overflow of compassion. He ventured forth and embraced Benjamin, the youngest, whose innocent spirit stirred the depths of his unchanged love. Then, with tears held back only by the beauty of reconciliation, he enveloped each brother in his arms. "Joseph," Judah spoke, his voice thick with emotion, "we come not just as ones who once hurt you, but as those who seek peace. The heart of our father longs to see you. His spirit is fragile, and we would have him know the truth of what God has brought forth." Tears glistening in his eyes, Joseph responded, "It is well. Let our father come to me, for I will show him the goodness of God that has been poured out upon my life." With this, Joseph sent messengers ahead, laden with gifts of grain, wine, and rich fabrics. "Tell our father of my glory, and let him know that this famine shall not touch him or his family. I have reserved a place for him, and he shall dwell comfortably in the land of Goshen." The brothers returned to Jacob, filled with fervor. "Father, come, speak to Joseph. He lives and desires to share with you the blessings bestowed upon his life. Let not your heart be troubled." At their words, the breath caught in Jacob's throat. Could it be that the dreams he had once held on to, though buried deep under the weight of sorrow, were now on the verge of fulfillment? And as Jacob readied himself for the journey, he could feel the stirrings of hope within him. "I am going to see my son in Egypt," he proclaimed, "and if I die afterward, I will die content for having seen him alive." As the caravan journeyed forth, the promise of God loomed large over them. Jacob, now steadfast with faith, heard a divine reassurance whisper to his spirit, "Fear not to go down to Egypt, for I will make of you a great nation there." The road stretched before them, and the hand of God guided them. Yet, as Joseph prepared the way in Egypt, he sensed that this was but the prelude to a much larger story. For even as the heavens seemed to open wide with possibility, a shadow lingered, hinting at trials ahead that would test the faith of his lineage. In the chambers of Pharaoh's court, Joseph knew that God's design was unfolding, a divine tapestry woven with the threads of his brother's faith and struggles. Much awaited them, and the journey was ripe with promise and peril. Thus, as the sun set upon the horizon of their destiny, the air was charged with anticipation. What further mystery shall God reveal through us, Joseph pondered, for the dawn of a new beginning is on the horizon, and with it, a greater divine purpose awaited our discovery. As Jacob and his sons traversed the land towards Egypt, the air was thick with a mixture of hope and trepidation.
Each brother's heart echoed with the heavy weight of the past, yet a blessed anticipation filled their souls, nurturing faith in the covenant promises of the Almighty. Arriving in Egypt, they beheld the grandeur of Pharaoh's land, a vision transformed since the days of their brother's enslavement. The enticing aromas from the marketplace mingled with the perfume of the mindful winds, stirring in them a reminder of God's providence. Yet deeper within each heart lay a yearning for reconciliation, not only with Joseph, but with the past they wished to atone. Upon their reception at Joseph's house, they were met with a display of royal hospitality. Servants filled their plates with the finest foods, while the finest wines flowed. Still, Joseph's heart bore the burdens of unspoken truth. He summoned them forth upon a starlit evening, saying, "Brothers, tonight we share not only food, but the deeper communion of understanding." Gathered in the light of lamps flickering softly, Joseph gazed into their eyes, each brimming with stories untold. "Tell me," Joseph pressed gently, his voice carrying the weight of past wounds they shared, "of our father, how fares he in Canaan?" Judah, emboldened by the warmth of the moment, spoke, "Our father clings to life, hope thrumming in his heart for reunion. We have come as bearers of restoration, for the days of sorrow have drawn in his spirit." As Joseph listened, memories flooded back, both fragrant and bitter, of his youth and of dreams once whispered to him. "I am Joseph, your brother whom you sold into Egypt," he declared, each word a tangible thread uniting the fabric of their lives once more. The brothers recoiled in shock, their faces pale as they grappled with the weight of their actions. "Fear not," Joseph continued, "for what you intended for evil, God has turned towards good, to preserve many lives." An uneasy silence enveloped them, each brother wrestling with the shame and guilt of the past, while Joseph's heart flooded with a revelation. Falling to his knees, he wept openly, a cascade of sorrow and joy pouring forth. God has revealed his plan through these trials, and now is the time for healing. The brothers, realizing the depth of Joseph's forgiveness, approached him, their hearts now softened. "We have wronged you, dear brother, but God's mercy is evidently present," Reuben stammered, tears streaming down his face. And Joseph, filled with compassion, raised them from the ground, saying, "Go and tell my father of the glory of God that has shone upon us. I will bring him here, and together we will feast in joy." Even as divine restoration unfolded, a sense of foreboding lingered within Joseph. He perceived God was orchestrating not merely these events, but honing a legacy wrought in faith. Thus he prepared life-giving provisions for Jacob and instructed his brothers, "Bring the finest chariots and many gifts for our father, for God will bless us abundantly."
As the brothers journeyed back, laden with both goods and hope, the night sky twinkled brightly, a celestial reminder of promises fulfilled. And God spoke to Jacob in a dream, saying, "Do not fear to go down to Egypt, for I will surely bring you up again, and Joseph shall put his hands upon your eyes." Thus, led by faith and stirred by God's promises, they returned toward home, yearning for the reunion that lay ahead. Yet, lurking beneath these joyous reunions was a lingering whisper, a divine revelation not yet realized. What trials would ensue to fulfill God's covenant to Jacob? For deep in the heart of Egypt, the story of deliverance was yet unfolding, like a tapestry woven through trials of faith, waiting to be revealed in its fullest and most glorious form. As the sun rose over the land of Egypt, painting the sky with hues of golden promise, Jacob, the revered patriarch, journeyed with his sons toward the kingdom of Pharaoh. Each step forward was a testament of faith, guided by the whispers of the Almighty, whose promises hovered in the air like the fragrance of blooming flowers. The weight of reconciliation filled their hearts, paired with an urgency to embrace the miraculous gift of their void-filling reunion. Upon their arrival in the grand city, the brothers beheld the familiar face of their brother Joseph, now adorned in fine garments, embodying both authority and grace. The day of redemption had come, and God's sovereign plan unfolded with each heartbeat. Joseph, in a moment suspended in time, saw his father Jacob, the frail yet enduring image of the man who had borne grief upon his shoulders for far too long. With arms outstretched, Joseph ran to Jacob, embracing him fiercely. Tears streamed down both faces, the river of pain mingling with the currents of joyful reunion. "I am Joseph, whom you thought lost, alive and well," he proclaimed, his voice trembling with love and relief. As the patriarch's heart stirred, the embrace electrified the air, igniting both forgiveness and an unbreakable bond manifesting in their reunion. The brothers then gathered around their father, sharing stories of journeys traveled, burdens lifted, and the merciful hand that had guided them through the darkness of their past. With each declaration, the tapestry of their legacy wove tighter,
resilient against the trials it endured. "Go now," Joseph instructed, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, "and dwell in the land of Goshen. I will provide for you and bless you abundantly, for God has placed me here for such a time as this." With newfound courage, Jacob's clan settled in Egypt, a testament of faith evidenced in their answered prayers and the dreams that God dared to fulfill. As days turned into months, the household of Jacob prospered. The whispers of despair transformed into songs of gratefulness, echoing through the streets of Egypt. And yet, despite the tangible blessings, Joseph never forgot the elusive promises spoken to his ancestors.
One evening, under a star-strewn sky, Joseph gathered his family. "I know that our Lord is faithful and has endowed us with much," he began, "but do not become complacent in these comforts. Remember the covenant made with our forefathers, our rightful land, the land of promise." Eyes widened with understanding. Each brother recalled the words spoken over generations, the promises that echoed far beyond earthly comforts. They felt it resonate in their spirits. They were part of something larger, crafted by the hand of the Creator. In a moment of divine revelation, Joseph unveiled, "My brothers, this journey does not end here. God has a plan, one that leads us back to Canaan. When the time comes, we must remember this land was never our final destination. As He has been faithful, so shall we be." The air crackled with anticipation as they mused upon His words. Breaking the silence, Judah, with a heart overflowing, confessed, "We have strayed from our calling in fear and guilt, yet God has shown us His grace. Together, we must walk back to the inheritance that awaits us." Underneath the glow of celestial lights, the promise of a new dawn emerged. They vowed to remain steadfast, preparing both hearts and spirits for the journey of liberation God would orchestrate. With unified purpose, the brothers set forth to carry the stories of their lineage, intent on honoring the divine legacy that promised to deliver them from Egypt's grasp. Joseph, now an exemplar of faithfulness, became a beacon of hope to his family and the people of Egypt. Through famine and prosperity, he led with wisdom, humility, and a steadfast heart, always returning to the faith that sustained him. As seasons ebbed and flowed, the blessings they enjoyed nurtured a growing bond with God. Meanwhile, whispers of a holy legacy stirred among the oppressed, waiting for the day of their deliverance to arrive. The hour approached, and the promise of their inheritance loomed nearer, beckoning the faithful onward, ever toward a new chapter wrought with divine purpose and love. In a climactic moment of divine orchestration, as Joseph lay upon his deathbed, he summoned his brothers. "When God visits you to deliver you, carry my bones from this land, for we as heirs of the covenant shall dwell in the land promised to us." Tears of gratitude flowed, for they knew the weight of his words, fortified by the faith that had shaped and transformed them. Jacob's lineage emerged not merely as a family, but as a nation forged in trials, destined to call upon the true and living God. Thus, as the brothers left Egypt, holding on to Joseph's decree, and fueled by the faith that had been birthed through their struggles and triumphs, they journeyed toward Canaan. With hearts aligned, they strode forth into the unknown, stepping into the fullness of God's promise, a journey led by the divine hand of providence.
And so, dear friends, let the story of Joseph serve as a beacon of hope, an anthem of redemption that assures us that God can turn every pain into purpose, every sorrow into song. Perhaps now you might be stirred to reflect on your own life. Are you holding on to the promises of God? Are you ready to embark on the journey of your divine calling? Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next powerful biblical story that can transform your life. Leave a like now, for this is the moment to help spread biblical truth through the algorithm. Comment below your thoughts and reflections. How is this story impacting your faith today? And share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth, for together we can carry forth the light of the gospel. Do not wait even one more second. The hearts that need it are waiting. Only true believers understand the urgency of supporting biblical content to reach more souls for Christ. Let us bless one another as we walk in His grace and fulfill the calling set before us.